My name is Coryn Mann. This is my husband, Eric Mann.
Hey, guys.
And we own Corvus Technologies. We're also consultants for the Small Business Development Center here in town, along with Sean Murray and Rodney. And so we wanted to just give a shout out to Atha and her group and Becky. Thank you guys for getting this, put this together. You guys are awesome. So as far as I know, the slides will be given out. It'll be up on their site. Is it this evening or tomorrow? When will the slides be ready for people to go get? Next week. All right. So next week, if you need anything, and again, get with Becky if you guys want to get some consulting with the cybersecurity folks or anybody on the team, which would be amazing. So we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah, one thing I'd just like to say thanks to all the cool kids for hanging out after lunch. Thank you. Very cool. Yeah, we'll try to make this interactive so that way you guys actually retain some of the information. Is my voice level okay? I'm not used to using a microphone. Okay, great. Okay, please, Coryn, go ahead.
All right, well, we're going to be doing this way.
Is that better?
Is this
Over
good?
here?
All right. Make sure I'm in the picture. So our agenda for this afternoon is we're going to be talking on why we focus on social engineering. What is social engineering? The social engineering psychological principles, which is a big mouthful. Social engineering information gathering, social engineering attack vectors, defense against the dark apps.
Yeah, any Harry Potter fans in here?
Yeah,
Awesome.
Harry Potter,
Cool.
woo!
It's for you.
All right.
It's for you.
Exactly. How to harden your organization, and then at the end we'll let you interrogate us with all your questions, or throughout the program is fine as well.
Okay, so real quick before we get started, because we want to make sure we're on time, Fake the hates anything above anything else. It's being late, so we're going to get done on time. So we'll save the majority of questions till the end. If it's something that you think is germane to what we're talking about, then feel free to ask. But otherwise, we should have plenty of time at the end for you guys to ask us as many questions as you'd like. Agreed? Everybody okay with that? Okay, cool.
All right.
Okay, so also would like to say thank you to Dr. Sean Murray and Dr. Eric. What's your last name again, sir? Huffman. I knew that. I already asked you that. They did a great setup earlier. If you guys caught their presentations on human hacking and cybersecurity for small businesses, this is more of an extension, specifically Dr. Huffman's talk of the techniques behind the human hacking. So thank you, sir, for that setup. We appreciate the softball. Cool.
All right,
Please.
and on that note, we'll go ahead and get into it. Maybe. All right.
Okay, so why are we focused on social engineering? And so I think the graph speaks for itself. It's because it's the #1 attack vector against small and medium businesses this year and last year. And the year before, it was second only to web-based attacks. So what this tells me is pretty disturbing. So this tells me that, one, it's persistent, right? And two, it's still effective because we're not defending against it like we should. So we're still at risk. So that's why we're going to talk about it. Next slide, please. Okay, so likewise, majority of compromises are due to negligence on the employee. So that means if you clicked on that phishing link, you are negligent. Does that make sense to everybody? So those two are very tightly coupled. Okay, next.
Okay, what is social engineering?
Okay, so has anybody in here heard of DEF CON before?
Yeah.
Anybody been to DEF CON before? Anybody still go to DEF CON? Yeah. So when I first started my InfoSec career about 15 years ago, it was mandatory that I had to go to DEF CON, right? I had to go to Mecca to see what all the security engineering was all about. And one of the things that stuck with me was this phrase that's still spoken at DEF CON, is that you can't patch stupid. So, you know, it's a pretty harsh term, but what does that mean to you guys? You can't patch stupid. I told you this was going to be interactive. Yes. You can't fix what?
Stupid.
Stupid, right.
Stupid choices.
Why? Why can't you fix people?
Because they have free will.
Yes, and they exercise that free will all the time, right? And as soon as we make security invasive or visible, we're pretty smart people, so we try to find a way around it, right? We don't want to be inconvenienced with that. So it still is true today as it was 15 years ago for me, in that, you know, getting the system security is easy. Getting the human security up to snuff, that's our real challenge. And that's what social engineering exploits, and that hopefully, with this talk as a start, will at least get you guys on that path to not only getting yourself smart, but your organizations trained to be able to defend better against social engineering attacks. Because it turns out it really is a framework, a methodology.
All right, so now we're going to go into definitions, because when we do our briefings, we like to incorporate definitions so that everybody is on the same platform. We gave a general definition of social engineering, which I'm going to read as any act that influences a person to take an action that may or may not be in their best interest. I don't know if anybody has ever had that happen before, where you've gotten something on your computer and it says, click now, or you're going to lose your data, and you click it and then you end up having problems. There's also an InfoSec definition, which says, form of techniques employed by cyber criminals designed to lure unsuspecting users into sending them their confidential data, infecting their computers with malware, or opening links to infected sites, which none of us want to do at this point.
And so in keeping with those definitions, we're going to start by talking about general social engineering principles. Then we're going to apply those to information security in the form of the attack vectors that we're currently experiencing today. Okay? So that's why we have the general and the InfoSec definition to kind of work us into it. Go ahead.
Okay.
Back.
There we go. So social engineering, it's actually treated as a scientific discipline, and actually the website that we have here is a great one for anybody to go to and take a look. A lot of the presentation in our slides that we received here is from that website, so it's a very good source of information for everybody.
Yeah, and it's constantly updated, so take a good look at it. One thing we want to emphasize at the start of this presentation is that social engineering by itself is a neutral topic, meaning that it's neither good nor evil, right? What makes it good or evil is the implementation of it. There are ways to socially engineer people for good and for benefit, and then there's ways to manipulate people using social engineering. So we don't want you to automatically assume that social engineering is a bad thing. It's not. In the wrong hands it is, right? And then finally, the core tenet, if you don't remember anything else from today's presentation, is that social engineering attacks the human, not the machine, right? Once again, you can't patch stupid. We take advantage of the human mind, tricking it, getting it to do things it wouldn't normally do, and it gives us a shortcut to compromise. Which is easier, trying to crack someone's password over the course of days and weeks, or getting them to divulge their password to you through a malicious link? Which one's faster, right? Yeah, number two, always, right? So as a bad guy, as a malicious actor, I'm always going to take the path of least resistance. Okay, next. By the way, how are we feeling so far about social engineering? You guys look
Good,
pretty
yes.
somber. Everybody's kind of like, oh man, what
Going
did I get
downhill
into?
from lunch. Wake up, put some music on soon. It's going to be great.
Okay, so once again, remember this can be used for good or bad. So try not to associate any value with it yet. We'll get to the bad in a little bit. All right, so some of the bedrock principles, and once again, this isn't an exhaustive list of the principles, but it's a pretty good sampling, right? Because we didn't have time to go into every single psychological principle. But the first one is we need to establish rapport, right? Everybody knows what rapport means in here, yes? Okay, right? And we need to do that quick. And one of the main ways we do that, well, two ways, right? We either demonstrate authority, right? Or we demonstrate the need for sympathy or dependence. So what does that mean in English, Eric? If I'm going to act authoritative, what might that sound like when you're talking with somebody? Anybody serving in the military in here? Okay. Anybody received an order from a police officer? Right? Well, not going to raise your hand for that, right?
About your boss.
Right, from your boss, right?
I want this done now, not tomorrow.
Right, right. Basically saying that I'm more important than you are and you need to do what I'm telling you to do because I'm an authority over you, right? The other method is dependence. So think of, Coryn, I really need you to, if you could you forward this spreadsheet to Elicit for me, because if I don't, I'm going to get fired because my boss is saying I'm already a week behind. Elicit is really mad, right? That's the dependence route. That's the sympathy route. So once again, personal experience, when you're using social engineering in a controlled environment, You have to very quickly decide which one of those two you're going to do, right? Some people don't like authority. So if you come across authoritative, you've lost them, right? That's your opportunity gone. So normally, what I've done in the past is I start with the dependence route first, the sympathy route, and then if the person isn't responding to that, I instantly switch into authoritative mode. Because you got to get their attention, right? You got to establish that rapport, that relationship, and you've got about 10 to 15 seconds to decide that when you meet the person face to face, right? Okay, good. All right. I'm sorry. Questions, comments?
I disagree with that.
Okay, why so?
Well, I think that the latter is a parental-child approach, and I think the former is definitely authoritarian. Why isn't it an equal? We need to get this done.
Right, right.
And you do this part, I'll do that part.
Right, I agree, and that's more of the quid pro quo that we're talking about below. But the general tone, you either need to be cooperative or authoritative, right? And dependence is more of a, I need your help to get this done. If you can help me, I'll help you, right? Would you agree with that?
I don't know if it's dependence.
Well,
If you can't help me, then I do it myself.
right, except in this case, they can't really do it themselves because they're depending on you to give them the information they need to prosecute the hack, right? So, okay, all right, that's a good point, though, good point. All right, we need to establish time constraints, right? That's the one thing you need to remember as well. All social engineering attacks are time-based, so the longer they set, the less successful the chances of them working are. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so you want to pressure people. You want to get them to do it now or as quick as possible, right? But once again, without blowing everything up. It's a really delicate balance. Okay, modulate your RSVP, voice, rhythm, volume, speed, pitch. And this goes to your point there, sir, about what kind of tone are you striking, right? Am I dependent? Am I authoritative? Am I cooperative? Are we peers, right? That's all communicated in RSVP as well. So it's not only the verbal, it's the nonverbal. Okay? And wherever possible, and once again, this is a very delicate balancing act here, is you need to stroke the target's ego. You need to let them know that you appreciate them, right? But you don't want to overdo it. Because if you overdo it, then they'll know that you're blowing sunshine and that you'll raise their guard, right? So it's a fine line. Okay, let's see. Next, and it's different than stroking the ego when we say compliment or validate the target's responses. So why would you think that that's different than stroking the ego? Yes, sir. Right. Right, exactly. I'm not stroking their ego, but I'm letting them know I hear what you're saying, and I'm validating what you're saying by repeating or, changing it to where I've reframed it, right? But the bottom line is we're staying engaged with the target. That's what that means, okay? And how we do that is we want more than yes, no answers. We want the target to divulge as much information as possible. So how we do that is we ask open-ended questions. How, why, when? Give me more detail, right? Because when people start to talk, they start to let a lot of things out, right? It's our nature to be helpful, want to help solve problems, okay? All right, how we doing so far? We feeling good? Anybody had this done to them in real life? Like maybe when you go to buy something or look at a car or any of that, right? Like I said, the technique is neutral. It depends on how you deploy it. All right, so the next one, and this is directly from the site that we went from, is that we create a human buffer flow condition. So how many programmers do we have in the house here? They're familiar with programming. Anybody want to take a stab at what a buffer overflow is as far as a definition for the rest of us?
More data than you can handle.
Right, so more data than a program can handle with the intention of doing what? What happens to that program when it gets too much data?
Fails.
It either fails, right, worst case, or if you're a bad guy, what do you want to happen? Right, you want that program to run instructions that you've given it, right, by overfilling that memory. So think about it from a human brain perspective, right? We use these two techniques called presupposition and embedded commands. Sorry, it sounds like I'm echoing really bad. To program the brain. So presupposition, anybody know what that means? When you presuppose something? You're making an assumption that what? Sorry, one more time? Right, that they already believe something to be true before you speak it, right? And so you use that along with embedded commands to get past the conscious mind and into the subconscious. I'll give you an example. So when you look to buy NIST 800-171 compliance services from companies such as Corvus Technologies, I just lost that, sorry, because I was trying to word it right. So when you look to buy compliance services from a company such as Corvus Technologies, what factors are you looking for in your evaluation? So I've asked you an honest question, right? But what did I insert in there, hopefully to get around your conscious mind? A couple things. Corvus Technologies, right? You're looking to buy, right? From Corvus Technologies, what? Sorry?
The name.
The name? Well, the services that we talked about, the 171 compliance services. But I made it as an open-ended question, so I planted that seed in your head to start thinking about that, right? It's very subtle. Okay. All right, next. Okay, so frame the conversation, and once again, we changed the frame of reference to the conversation to reflect the target's values. So the more you know about the target, the more effective this is. Pretty self-explanatory. And then we exert influence, right? So we do that multiple ways. One of the easiest ways is to utilize authority, unless the person is very anti-authority. But the bigger one that works, I think, the most is you establish that commitment and consistency. It's that whole, I hear what you're saying, especially quid pro quo is also very, very effective in saying, I really need to get this done. If you can help me with this, I'll help you with that, right? How can I make your life easier as a person, right? Very, very effective. And then we create that feeling of scarcity. One day only, today only. If I don't get it done in 2 days, I'm going to get fired. It's going to fire me, right? We put that scarcity in there. Okay. Now, elicit information from the target. What does elicit mean? I know these are all fancy words, but they're important. What's elicit mean? To extract, right? Okay, cool. Anybody want to take it a little bit further? Elicit? You're right, you're on the right track.
Collect, gather.
Right. I wanted you to give me information indirectly. I'm going to ask you an indirect question to get you to give me more information than you would otherwise, right? And so some ways we can do that. One of my favorites is making false statements. So I can say, hey, Coryn, I hear at Corvus your security is really, really awesome. You guys have like 20 cameras, you've got 2 24/7 guards, and you also have fingerprint scanners on all your entrances. Man, that is a really secure operation. So obviously for us, that's not true because we're a small business. So what do you think Coryn's bias is going to be to answer that question when I make that statement to her, or most people in general? Yeah, well, thank you, but no, we don't have that many. We have, and people will drop the real number, right? And they think they're doing you a service, and they think, oh, well, I'm being honest. I'm being an honest broker. Well, thank you very much. You just helped me out tremendously. Okay? All right. So, next, Coryn.
All right, and then we're going to develop, and I'll do this one.
Yeah,
I
that
forgot
one.
it was in my hand. I'm going to develop and deliver pretexted persona tailored to a target.
So what does that mean, Coryn? That's a big mouthful. Pretexted?
So
Persona?
in other words, pretexted.
What is that?
So pretexted means that it's going to be something that has already been developed to target me specifically.
Yeah, pretext is a alternate identity, right? Mm-hmm. It's a fictional character, somebody you make up, and the more you put into it, the more convincing it is. So like say that I'm Eric from IT support. The more I know about your organization, the more I can come off as an IT person, the more odds of success I have. That's what that means, right? So once again, tailor to the target's environment. Okay, next slide.
All right, and then for social engineering information gathering, a lot of the things that they utilize is available information that's already out there that you have, like your business cards. They can get those from you. Contact us pages on websites, business records that you may have out there, domain registrations that you have to get your email addresses in order to send you emails for phishing, and then also through social media as well.
Coryn, that doesn't sound very fair.
It's not fair.
Wow. So think about your business cards, everybody. Anybody got the business card on them? Pull your business card out. What kind of information do you have on your business card? All right, phone, right? Email, full name, title, right? Company name. Anybody got their URL for their company on there? That's a pretty good start, right? That's a freebie. And what's our number one thing we do when somebody comes up and gives you a business card? How do you respond? You give them one back, right? That's pretty easy, right? That's low cost. And who's to say the business card that I'm giving you isn't fake, right? So once again, it happens all the time, but especially everybody know what happens at the Broadmoor every year, the Space Symposium that happens? Well, that's a very fertile ground for that kind of a collection of intelligence. Business cards are collected all the time. Once you have that, then you can contact those individuals saying, well, I talked to General so-and-so about Project XYZ, and he told me that, you know, I need to send him this presentation because it's germane to his program. Could you please see that he gets it? Sounds pretty reasonable, right? The more I know, the more effective I can be, right? All right.
Well, and we're getting ready to do a demo. And the reason why I wanted to do a demo on this is because since I've been in the IT field, which was about 2 years, I did subcontract management for years and years and also active duty Air Force. So I'm learning IT as well with everybody else. And being head of the company, I was surprised at constantly getting emails for phishing. For people asking me, hey, I'm from Office 365, or I'm from this, click on here now, you know, and thankfully, because of my IT support that I have, I know not to do that kind of stuff, and that's what we're trying to teach in this course today. So we wanted to do a little demo, because I was interested on, so how did somebody get my information? Kind of like what Eric was telling you about going into your business card and getting that. It's like, well, but what if, you know, we don't hand out except for in local events here, and so what else is out there to where people can get my information? So Eric went out there and did some research for me.
Right. Do you remember, did everybody catch Dr. Murray's talk this morning? Remember he said he made that one OPSEC mistake, and now he's paying for it with all the emails that are coming to him, right? All it takes is one. We're fairly diligent about that ourselves. And to Coryn's point, we've had a recent spate of phishing attacks with regards to Office 365, because that's what we use for our Office IT productivity platform. So I was just curious, well, how did they get that information? I'm sure it's legitimate. I know we're being targeted, but I was just curious why. So Mr. Logan's going to walk us through a quick demo here, and this is how easy it is. So Whois? Anybody used Whois in here? We know what we use Whois for? Yes, sir? What do we use it for?
Find out somebody's information on
Right, to find out about somebody's domain, right, that they have registered on the internet. For anybody that has a website in here, you have a domain, you have similar information. So, Mr. Logan, could you do me a solid there and put in our domain name, please?
Yes.
Well, that's not a good way to do business. If you can't find us. Go up to the Whois button in the upper right in that text box. There you go, sir. And it's corvus-tech.net. There you go. Cool. All right. So the good news is we use an organization, Namecheap, for our domain registrar. So we've done a lot of things right. If you look a little further down, if you look at the registrant contact, all it has is Whois. It doesn't have anything about us there personally whatsoever. That's pretty good, right? We did good there. But let's go back up. Do you see where it says name servers? Can you guys read that? Do you notice it says microsoftonline.com? So in English, that means that we're using Microsoft for our DNS servers, which that only way that would be possible is if we're using Office 365, right? Causal link. So there's strike one, okay? Can you go to the next tab, please? So the interesting thing is that we have all these email aliases. We have a service, we have a jobs, we have, all these other aliases that we, on our public sites, that's all we list. We don't list our personal email addresses, but yet Still, despite that, Coryn was being targeted personally. It had her proper email address. So there's other tools out here besides this one here, but this is just one example. This tool crawls the web and looks for domain names that match, and it'll give you unique email addresses. So right there you can see Coryn's email address. And that's all publicly available information. There's nothing we can really do to stop that. And so, didn't show it up here, but how her email got out was the Minority Business Office linked to her personal email in one of the, or her business email in one of their posts. And that's how it got indexed on the web. So once it's out there, right? And so right there, that little simple demo is how, or one way we could have been targeted for compromise. Okay.
And actually later in the presentation, we'll show you screenshots of what those emails look like so that you can kind of look for those as well if you use that platform.
Right. Okay. Can you go back to the presentation, please, Logan? Thank you, sir. Okay. Next. All right.
All right, so we have some social engineering attacks, vectors that are used, and some of this was also in Sean Murray's presentation earlier today. And we talk about phishing, which is through the email system. Then we also have the vishing, which is a derivative, it's through to telephone. And then we have smishing, which is text through your phone, small messaging. And then we have the impersonation utilizing established pretext, which we talked about previously, where they have an identity that they have created, and then they call you and say, hey, I'm from tech support, you need to give me your information because we've got an issue with your account, things to that nature.
So just a quick question for everybody. Of all those methods, which one do you think is the easiest to do as a bad guy? Which one has the least amount of risk? Yes, sir? Absolutely. Anybody disagree with that? Have an alternate opinion? Dr. Sean, what would you say, sir? Phishing? Okay. And that's why he's the doctor.
That's right.
Thank you, sir. Okay. So conversely, which method do you think is the most risk intensive, the one that's going to give you the most heartache to pull off? Impersonation, right? Kind of obvious, right? Because then you're in person, even though you're acting as another person, but you're physically present. So the risk level goes through the roof when you're in impersonation. Okay, next.
Okay. Now we have the definition, because we love giving out definitions to make sure everybody understands the acronyms or the words that we provide. So phishing is, and I'll let you guys read it. I won't go through the whole thing. I'll give you a minute.
So in addition to our company, anyone else in here been the target of phishing attacks? Right? Anybody, I guess the better question, has anybody not received a phishing email in a while? Okay. Oh, not for long. Okay, great. All right, so some examples from the Federal Trade Commission. I'm not going to read those off to you. We're kind of, I'm all about showing you examples. If we could go to the next slide, I'm going to show you some real world ones that we've received within the last 3 to 6 months. So I've put them in order of degree of professionalism. So this first one is really easy to determine that it's bogus. It's kind of hard for you guys to see. Look at the email return address. Can anybody read that domain name on there? I don't know if you can or not. Okay, it's .de. What is .de?
Standard.de.
Germany, right? Oh, pretty sure Microsoft isn't running out of Germany, right? So that's a red flag, number one. Okay. Number two, the English, the content, it's not giving me that scarcity, right? It's not giving me that authority saying, you know, we're going to shut your account. So pretty easy to see that that one's bogus. Okay. Let's go to the next one, please.
Here we
Okay.
go.
Anybody in here use Office 365 besides us? Okay.
Yeah.
What does the font look like? Does that look like a legit Microsoft font? No? Say no, actually it's the same one they use. So it's pretty close, right? Right, they don't
Right.
put the dash in there, but the
The
color
colors are the
and
same,
the size
and the font
is
size.
dead on, right? So this one's a little bit harder to determine that it's bogus, right? Looks a little more legitimate. How about the return URL up there? It says exchangeapc.com. Is that a legitimate Microsoft domain? I had to check it. I didn't know, but it turns out, no, it is not a legitimate Microsoft domain. So that's strike two. I didn't need to go any further. However, and I don't suggest you guys do this unless you're trained in it, is that you would then extract that URL that's behind that link and then examine that URL to see where it goes. Okay? So, all right. Next slide, please. Next example. This is yours.
So this one's mine. This is one because I was at PTAC recently and updating my SAM registration page because it was coming to the end of the year and we have to do it yearly and all that good stuff and making sure everything's updated. And he was telling me, you know, because recently SAM got hacked and got compromised. So they went in and they've now got where you had to go back in, establish a new login, they send you a PIN, sort of multi-factor authentication, and then go in. And he told me, he goes, well, you know, SAM will send you specifically an email stating that your registration is up, SAM specifically. And then he says, never go with any other third party or anything to that nature. And so when I got back, I had this in my email.
Talk about timing, right? It was to the day. It was really bizarre.
And here it says, click, you know, to start. And I'm like, well, then that's not right. And so then immediately I went to my IT support right here. And
Right.
he said, no, this is not correct. So I wanted to bring this up because I'm sure a lot of people here who are doing business with the government are in SAM, and you may receive emails like this. And so what I would suggest is just delete it and go right into SAM yourself and check the status of your, you know, account yourself. So, and then go from there. And also use PTAC if you need help updating your SAM account because they'll be happy to do that for free.
Right. Excellent. Next.
All right, and then we have variants of phishing, which is spear phishing. Does anybody know what spear phishing is in here? That's
sir.
Go ahead.
Researching a target and then performing a very detailed and to the
Correct.
individual person.
Exactly, specific targeting of variants there for
Good job.
phishing.
Good job.
And then whaling. Does anybody know what whaling is? Yes, sir.
It's targeting an individual such as a system administrator or management.
Correct. Owners of company, anybody in corporations, anything of that nature.
Specifically senior leadership, right? Either the boss or the CEO, C-level officers, senior VPs, the people that are decision makers are the whales.
Exactly. And then farming. Does anybody know what farming is? That's
Come on,
NAS.
we're in Colorado.
Well, yeah, I'm going to say, it's where they throw it out to everybody and anybody that they found an email to online and just trying to wait and see who's going to catch it and click on that link. And then we have vishing.
Right, which we just talked about, which is the voice interactive version of phishing. Every year at DEF CON, they have these villages, right? So think of areas of expertise. Hardware hacking is one, lockpicking is another one, social engineering is now its own village. So what a village is, it's kind of like a microcosm of the conference, right? So anything related to social engineering, they talk about all day, every day of the conference. You can hang out all day there and learn as much as you want, all concentrated in that area of expertise. So that's pretty cool, right? So thankfully, she's a white hat security professional. Also at DEF CON, they have the Capture the Flag. Anybody heard of CTF in here before? They have a social engineering CTF, which is the equivalent of trying to successfully pull off social engineering attacks against businesses in the Vegas area. Once again, done with the white hat on, so they didn't do any damage. And here's the thing, right? The media in Las Vegas publicizes the event of DEF CON weeks before they ever come, and they give warnings saying, all right, the hackers are coming into town, things are going to be different, be on your guard, don't answer the phone, don't give information. They do this every year, so the media is doing its job, but still, every year, somebody wins the Capture the Flag challenge, and it's usually epic. So it's a challenge, right? You can't patch stupid. So let's hope that we can do a little better. Now, a question. What mode did the Jess go into? Was she authoritative or was she dependent? She was asking for help. She was dependent, right? She set that time constraint, even though it was subconscious of the baby crying, right? How many people like listening to a baby cry on a phone call? Right? Exactly, because it's right at that frequency. It's really easy to hear, right? It's really loud in the phone call, and it is in the range of human speech. So it's hard to understand somebody when you've got the background noise of a cry going on. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Any questions on that? And why were you mad? I mean, if you could put your finger on it, what is it that made you upset about that the most?
That I am so vulnerable and no one's got my back.
Right. And once again, I totally agree with you there, but the customer service rep thought they were being helpful, right? Because did you notice that the CSR was offering additional things, saying, oh, well, I noticed you don't have a password on there. Oh, and I noticed that your daughter's not on there, right? Holy crap, that's crazy. So I agree with you, but the point is that we're trying to make to everybody is that knowledge is power. When you're aware of these techniques and you see them in action, as subtle as they are, hopefully something will click and you'll be like, you know, I remember hearing about that somewhere, and I'm not gonna go forward with that, right? That's our goal. So next slide, please. All right, so smishing, which I hate that term, but it's text messaging, right? Once again, we've got 3 examples up here. I've got a bad, good, better. Who wants to pick the bad example? Can you guys even see it? No? Right, okay. What would you say that one is? Bad, good, better? Terrible, why? Exactly, it's obvious, right? But here's my point as a counter. I agree with you. I think it's the worst example, but the fact that we keep getting those means it's still successful, right? That's the problem. People are still clicking on it. Stop it, it's bad. All right, so who wants to take a guess at what the next best example is? The one on the bottom or the one on the right? The one on the right, I have a vote for. Anybody else agree with that? Anybody counter that? Okay, I got another head nod. Anybody else? Yep, why? Uh-huh. Okay, right, exactly. But who's to say those numbers are legitimate, right? But to your point, to me, I think that's the best example as well, because it looks like stuff I've seen from anti-fraud, because our card, for whatever reason, because we're in business, we constantly get fraud alerts. Yeah, and we travel a lot. So that, to me, looks the most legitimate of the two. It turns out those numbers are bogus, and it's a redirect to a social engineering organization. Yes, sir?
And based off of the Santander at the top,
Right.
they are mimicking the phone number of
Yes.
Santander.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, they're spoofing Santander, which is a financial bank, right? It's an institution in the UK. So yeah, that one looks pretty legit. That one may get a lot more people. But what about the one on the left concerning your Apple ID? Right. Somebody said the bit ly. What is bit ly for? I'm sorry, over here. What is bit ly?
It's a way to hide the, well, people who are trying to gain information use it to hide.
Right.
Usually people who are being honest are using it because it's shorter, it's much easier.
Right. Did everybody hear that? That's absolutely right. So bit.ly is a URL shortening service. So a lot of us have these really long missile codes for parts of our website. Well, that's really onerous to have somebody try and type in, much less, to type in. So what bit.ly does is it gives this nice little truncated missile code that's the equivalent of that. And when you click on that bit.ly, it redirects you to that URL that's mapped to, right? But to your point, the bad guys know this, and so they will put a malicious URL, map it to a bit.ly, and unless you click on that bit.ly, you won't know if it's legitimate or not, right? So that's strike one. You're absolutely right. Okay, what about the over on the right side of that, where it says your Apple ID is blah, blah, blah. Confirm your Apple ID at update-apple.uk. Once again, is that a legitimate Apple URL? You say no, because obviously it's not, but it looks legit. Would you agree? It's one of those things you've got to check, right? And so anybody not remember the DNC hack that happened in 2016 where all the Democrats' emails got pilfered onto the net by supposedly the Russians, right? Which I believe, but it's another topic. How was the DNC compromised? I'm sorry? They phished Priebus. They spear phished him, absolutely. So they got his credentials. Once they got in, they had his access to the mail server, so they got all his emails. And then from there, they phished other people that Priebus was in contact with on those emails, phished them, got admin rights. Once they had that, it was game over, and they got everybody's emails. So that's how it happens. And their modus operandi, the Russians, is they use things like the update-apple.uk. They make them look really, really close to legitimate URLs, but they'll change the spelling by one character. So you got to pay attention, and if you're in doubt, don't click on it, look it up first. Make sense? Okay, next. Enough time.
All right, so we have impersonation targets. We list 4 of them, and one is tech support, the other is commercial delivery agent, and that is like FedEx or your UPS for impersonating them. Also, the Postal Service gets impersonated, and law enforcement. And can anybody tell me why the last 2 are asterisked? That is correct. So the bottom 2 are actually federal offenses if you get caught impersonating a Postal Service person or law enforcement. But impersonating a tech support person is not an offense, nor is a commercial delivery agent. So there is some of the issues that we've got there.
Right, and once again, Dr. Murray shared earlier one of his customers' real-world stories of the person impersonating either FedEx or UPS to intercept those iPhones. It happens all the time. But I don't know about you guys, but I love my FedEx and UPS guy, right? Because they're always bringing me toys. So I love them to death, right? So they're one of the top impersonation targets because we trust them implicitly, right? And bad guys know this. And in fact, if you Google, you can find uniforms for all the major telcos out there, Verizon included, as well as FedEx and UPS that you can buy on the market so that you can impersonate those people. It's that easy. Yeah. All right. It gets better, I promise. It does. It gets better. All right. So any Hogwarts fans in here? Good, good, good. All right, so now we're going to frame this from, instead of general, we're going to frame this from InfoSec, and we're going to say that social engineering is bad from an InfoSec perspective. So how do we defend against the bad, right? So we talked about the attack vectors already. We talked about phishing, smishing, and what was the other one? Smishing.
Smishing.
Yeah, oh God, I hate those terms. Anyway. So for phishing, this is all common, a lot of it's common sense. First of all, keep your malware protection, prevention up to date, right? Both Rodney and Sean were talking about earlier, antivirus isn't enough. You need to use your malware detection suites you got on your systems. That's the start. Second one, never ever launch attachments. And third, never ever click on the link. Examine that URL first, right? So if you're in doubt, looking at the web address, don't click on it. Do a cut and paste of the link in a text editor, right, in Word or somewhere else, and take a long, close look at it, right? Now, I don't recommend this last method, but if you don't have any other methods available to you, you can cut and paste the link into a web browser. But the danger there is if you click enter, then it'll actually go there. So don't do the last technique. Cut and paste it into a Word editor and take a look at it out of band and see if it's legitimate. All right, so against phishing, this one's fairly straightforward as well. Verify the identity of the caller. And I think to help make you feel a little bit better, the second bullet is very effective. And this is where you, as the owner or as one of the principals in your company, is that you go over allowable information disclosures with your staff. This is where we start to patch the stupid, right? This is where we tell people, look, if you're on a phone call with anybody, you can talk about the following topics, but if it's anything financially sensitive, customer sensitive, then defer to either HR or to one of your senior people that's trained, right? Very simple to do. But once again, our nature is we want to help by default, so it's hard to fight that urge to not help people. Train your people not to. Tell them what they can talk about and what they can't. Set it as a policy. Enforce it. Next. Okay, smishing. Number one defense, delete it. Just delete it. You don't need it, right? There's no skin in the game, you deleting it. The other thing too is we talked about the one on the right, the Santander one, looked fairly legitimate, right? So how many people, when they want to call their bank, bring out their credit card and look at the number on the back of it? When you call them, right? That's a legitimate number. So even if you get something from your bank, if you're in doubt and you don't think it's legitimate, pull out your card associated with that bank instead and look at that contact number and match them up. And if they don't match, well then obviously it's fraudulent. Does that make sense to everybody? Cool. Right, low tech but very effective. And then finally, if you don't have that, Yes, sir, please.
Caveat to the number on the back.
Mhm.
Just because it's the number on the back doesn't mean it won't be a true bank number because
Right.
there's so many different departments.
There are.
Banks.
You're absolutely right.
But if in doubt, say, no, I don't want to talk to you.
Right.
Let me call the number on the back of my card and verify who you are, and then I'll call you back.
Exactly right. And obviously you work for a financial institution, which is awesome, right? Because at the minimum, that number is manned. You will get a voice on the other end when you call that number, and they will route you to the right department.
And at any given time, I work for Wells Fargo, so I know that any team member can do this. I can verify the person that they are employed with Wells Fargo in any single department within Wells Fargo.
Awesome.
Look them up, I can find them and say, oh yeah, that person does work for Wells Fargo. As long as I have their first and last name.
Outstanding. Well, there you go. Yes, ma'am.
But with respect to that, if they've fished it and they know that John Smith works for Wells Fargo, just because I give them John Smith's name is not a verification that
Right,
I'm
right.
getting to the right
Yes.
department.
Correct.
Right. I was going to say, to the point, you'd be using that number on the back of the card. You wouldn't be using the number in the text. You would start from that number that you know is valid on the card, and then trying to identify the person.
And if
Does that make
it's a
sense?
local branch, you can hop in your car and head over
Right.
to the branch and talk to somebody in person, unless your bank is outside of the state. So.
Right. And if that fails, at a minimum, then you can at least go to the website that you know is legitimate for the company or for the institution and use that to get contact information. It's going to take you a while to get to who you need to get to, but at least it's a valid start, and you're starting from a known good point instead of going directly into the clutches of the evildoer, right? Everybody okay with that? Yes? No? Okay. All right. Go ahead, Coryn.
All right, and then impersonation of defenses. So one of the things you should do is establish and enforce your tech support contact procedures. And the information that you're getting today from all these wonderful presentations are things that you can put into your policies and procedures to update them, to give more information to your employees and to yourself. So it's a big benefit here. So make sure that you enforce it, your tech support with the procedures. Limit deliveries to secure reception areas. So make sure that when UPS is delivering to your business, to your home, you know, if you work out of your home, because we work out of our home and we've got a lock on our door downstairs and stuff, that you have them come to either the reception area, let them know, or put it to the reception area so it's actually secure and that nobody can just come and take it off the doorstep. Also, challenge and deny access by default. So challenge people as well.
So how many people challenge people you don't recognize on your work campus? If you don't know them, do you say anything? I mean, let's be honest. Yes, I have a couple. Yep, absolutely, right? Once you've worked for DoD for as long as we have, you just get trained to do that. If not, do it, right? Don't be afraid. It's your organization. You have ownership in that organization. You need to take and exercise your authority. Challenge frequently, often. Going back to the secure reception area, you should have a drop-off area that you don't let anybody out of. Think of it as a sandbox. So somebody can come in, they can go out, but they don't go anywhere else within your perimeter. Make sense to everybody? Okay.
Well, and also with the challenging, it's just like when you're at home and if you have children and stuff, you're telling them, don't open the door to strangers, you know,
Right.
have mom and dad come. Or when you're home by yourself, if someone knocks on the door, you're going to peek out, you're going to challenge, you're going to ask. Do the same thing when you're at work, you know, it's kind of a good practice to have.
All right, so for general measures, right, this is if all else fails, just do this every day anyway, is I just said earlier, all social engineering attacks are time-based. So when in doubt, shut it down, time it out, right? Don't act on it immediately, delay it, right? The longer you delay it, the lower the success rate for that attack is. Does that make sense to everybody? So if you don't know, don't go. It's that easy, right? Always vet your information and sources. You need to not trust anybody when it comes to your business, right? There are people out there trying to pilfer your hard-earned dollars and besmirch your reputation. So you don't trust anybody. You go in with a little bit of healthy bias, and anything you get, you need to independently vet before you act on it. Yes, it adds additional steps, but trust me, it will save your bacon at some point.
And then you want to route all information and requests to any trained InfoSec people that you have on your site. Like I do that, I go to Eric, asking him questions. Anytime I get calls or emails as well, immediately report all suspicious contacts to trained InfoSec staff as well. You want to make sure your employees know to do that. Say if I have something that came in through email, I don't know who this person is, that they go to their InfoSec person and say, hey, this is what I'm getting, because it might have been, you're not the only one in the office getting it. Some of your coworkers are probably getting it too, and you may be able to stop it before it all starts.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to add to that is that, I don't think it's realistic for us to expect to get all of our staff trained up to the same level of competence and understanding, because this is a pretty complex topic, right? So how do we mitigate that, right? We have people that are trained, and we route everything to those people. That's the mitigation. Make sense? And then you train, and you put in your policy saying, these are the things we talk about, these are the things you can't. If you're ever in doubt, you stop it, and you forward it to whoever the person is that's trained. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes, sir.
I don't click on anything that comes in an email, but if an email contains an image, can that image be executed and leave something on my computer?
Yes, sir, it can. Treat the email as hostile, period.
So every email, I should look at the source code to see if there's images.
I mean, if you want to go to that level, yeah, absolutely. If you don't trust it, yeah, absolutely, you could do that. Okay.
All right, the next part is you're maintaining your physical escorting at all times. So whenever you have anybody come into your business, you want to make sure someone's with them at all times, maybe even give a visitor badge out to make sure that they don't go into secure areas that they shouldn't belong. And then also provide compulsory awareness and education to your employees and staff to make sure that they are aware of things that they can do to help secure the data that they're trying to protect for the company.
Yeah, and we say compulsory because, once again, this is the #1 vector compromising businesses today. So it's that important. You've got to make it mandatory. It's not optional. They have to do it on a regular basis. Yes, sir.
Continuing on that, that means any Word document can be executed.
Yes, sir. Same thing.
Correct.
Exact same
Yep.
thing.
Any other kinds of document, things that can be executed. Just
Anything that can be attached to your email, sir, is potentially a vector. Yes, sir.
any attachment.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So once again, what I would do if I received that is I would vet that source very carefully first. And if I didn't trust that source and I knew who that source was, my next action would be to call that person. And I would verify that that's a legitimate email, right? And if I didn't know who that person was, guess what? It gets deleted. Because if it's that important, they're going to email me again. Anybody
call
know
you.
the principle of email bankruptcy in here? Is that something we teach for SBDC? Email bankruptcy? After so long, if you're not caught up with your email, you delete it all, and then whoever needs your help will email you again. The principle, right? It's a known principle, right? If when in doubt, throw it out. Delete it. If it's that important, they will contact you either out of band or they will resend it to you. Great. Okay. All right. So, how do we harden our organization? The #1 method is to test, right? We need to develop these skills in our people, and the only way we're going to do that is to test on people. So that means running social engineering tests against your organization. Now, for those of you that can't do it internally because you don't have the necessary skill set or the willing participants, then you can outsource that to pen testing firms that'll do that for you as well. Now, if you want to do it free of charge, one of the main toolkits, which also the paid professionals use, is called Social Engineering Toolkit. It's written by a guy named Dave Kennedy. He's a white hat security professional. Used to be VP at Diebold Security. Now runs his own firm. His hacker handle is Relic. Anyway, he's a good guy, white hat. He wrote Social Engineering Toolkit. Very powerful tool. A little bit of technical skills needed to run it. Eric, do you guys run SET in your school? Do you guys use it as part of your distro? Yeah, SET? Okay, great. Yeah, it's good stuff. I think it's integrated into Kali. You should have it. So, and then because it's so important, it's not enough to annually train on social engineering. You need to train more than once a year, even if it's twice a year, right? It's that important. You got to keep it in people's heads. They need to be conscious that that's a real threat, because the more you focus and think on it, the better you are going to recognize those techniques when they're used on you. Okay? All right. Let's see, what else do we have there? And what that does from a management point of view is it reinforces the importance of that topic to your staff, as well as it communicates your commitment to protecting your organization from social engineering. So, All right, so next, this is the third one I think is very effective in organizations, is to share real-world examples that you've received with your staff. And I say inert, right? Ones that have basically been defanged, where you take the malicious URL out. It still looks the same, but if you clicked on it, you know, even mistakenly, it wouldn't hurt you, right? That's what I mean by inert. Why do you think I think that's effective, to share that with your organization? Come on, guys, you're doing good.
They know what they
Right, they know what to look for, and I heard, what was the other comment? More relatable, right, because it shows, one, you're being targeted, right? The threat is real, and two, it shows methods that are being used. It shows, well, what's the current flavor today of phishing that we're receiving? So that way, if your employee that's in another branch office gets that same email, they'll know automatically it's a phishing email and they'll delete it. Done, right? Very effective. And then finally, you need to maintain vigilance, because evil never sleeps. All right, so this is where you guys get to grill us. Next slide. And you can tell we're sweating it. So fire your questions. Who's got a question? We have to have at least one question. Rodney, Eric, sir, yes, please.
Is there an email scanner that eliminates all things with links, or they can be executed?
Yes, there are corporate tools available. They're a little higher end tools that will, based on your policy that you set of what you allow into your organization, will automatically strip attachments that don't match your policy, such as PDFs, Word, Excel, right? Any of those that you do not want to allow in, they will strip automatically and send a notification email to you saying, hey, guess what? You got an email from so-and-so and we stripped that attachment. Yes, sir, there are. But they're more enterprise grade and they're a little more costly. But they are out there. Great question.
Yes, sir.
So is there a best practice in terms of sending documents, sending different things back and forth between each other? Like, you know, let's say you have an Excel document that has like macros enabled that you have to do, right? Like, is there a way to, like, is there best practice in terms of sending that stuff not through email so that there's not that threat inherently logistic coming through email?
So you could definitely establish a best practice, right? I don't think there's any carte blanche, you know, do it this way. But to your point, a very effective method that a lot of organizations use is they either use SharePoint or they'll use Dropbox. They'll use some kind of shared medium where they trust their people because they're being authenticated, and they never send it via email, right? It's out of band effectively. And a lot of organizations are doing that. Now, to your point, there's a lot of times you have to send that kind of documentation to your customer, right? So our best practice that we do, anytime we're sending anything sensitive, first of all, we encrypt it, right? And before we ever send it, we send another email or phone call to let them know that that document is on the way and that it's encrypted. But that's our best practice. Does that make sense? All right, great questions. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, sorry. I was looking at Rodney. I know.
Is having too many emails on your computer make you more susceptible to abuse?
So when you say too many emails, you mean in your inbox, on your, not necessarily, no. No, it's just, it's not the quantity, it's the quality of the email, right? So no, not at all. I mean, once again, you could have a time bomb. So like for instance, with our subscription, Gmail, all those, they'll automatically flag some emails as spam and put them in your spam folder, and those could be malicious, right? And once again, if you go to investigate them and open them up, well, then you could, you know, be compromised if you click on it. But that's with any email. So no, to answer your question, no, ma'am, you're good. Just be vigilant. Rodney, you had a thought on that?
I was wondering if there is a higher risk for businesses that are using free email systems versus ones that are paying for something a little more robust as far as falling into this?
I absolutely think so, from the standpoint, Rodney, of the automatic protections you get from that vendor, right? I think that's where you're kind of going with that, is that, if you're paying for an enterprise grade email, they have a lot more filtering capability built in than if you're using, Yahoo Mail or Proton Mail or any of those other free variants, even the free version of Gmail, right? They don't do as much due diligence as they do with the business accounts, to your point. So, great question. Did I have a question here? I'll get to you in just a second, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I'm interested in ways to encrypt.
Ways to encrypt your email? Okay, so what platform are you using? Windows, Mac? Okay, you're using Mac. So are you using Office? Are you using Gmail? What's your email provider? Are you?
It's from my web domain.
So you're getting it from your domain, from your host. Okay, so once again, there are multiple ways to do that. One method that Rodney is very familiar with, he educated us on, is Virtru, is a capability that works with Gmail, works with, it'll work with Outlook. It should work with your ISP. You need to verify that. And if not, it's Virtru, V-I-R-T-R-U. That's one method. Out of the methods you can do, you can use secure email services such as Hushmail that have encryption capabilities. And then if you really want to go high-end, which do you do business with the government at all? Okay. So they have the thing called External Certificate Authority, ECA. If you get one of those, that is the same level of assurance as a government common access card. And you can get one of those, and it has a certificate on the card that will then encrypt your emails for you. So multiple ways to do it. Check out Virtru, though. That may be more up your alley for right now. And then as you get more mature, the token-based approach is a little more scalable. So, yes, sir. Question.
Question with regards to protection differences from using it on the system Outlook application versus using cloud-based server. So if I'm using Outlook in the server versus on my desktop, is the
Right.
organization protected better from?
Well, that's a really good question, and I think the honest answer is it depends on how you have your browser configured, how you have your local security policy set on your PC as to which one's more secure. So, for instance, if you're in a browser-based session for your email, if you have your browser set to not auto-open links, that's a little more protected than if you're on your local host and you click on that and it opens up. But it goes the other way as well, right? Because you can normally harden your desktop application more than you can your web browser based. Would you agree with that, Rodney, in general?
Yeah, it would depend on your application. The website is a lot more mobile. So you can go to a hotel, hop on that computer, and jump on the Outlook online.
Right.
But do you trust that computer?
Right.
Do you trust yours? Is it set up correct? So,
Yeah, so I mean, right. So in general, I think it's dangerous to try and say one is more secure than the other, because the real answer is it depends on how you have both of those configured. You can make cloud really, really secure. And likewise, you can also make desktop really, really secure. But unfortunately, web settings by default aren't very secure. You have to turn those on. A lot of those are opt-in, right? Whereas your desktop, there are more things enabled by default, but same thing. And there's still additional things you have to explicitly enable to enhance your security. So great question. Who else? Somebody else. How do we feel? Any better at all? Yeah, so the point is, check out that site, socialengineer.org, excellent site. Demystify the techniques. They're not rocket science, right? And see them in action. They have we just scraped the surface of what they have on the site. It's an excellent resource. They talk about, car sales, politics, how you use social engineering and all those examples. So the more familiar you get with the topic, the better you can defend against that, right? That's our stake. Yes, sir.
Just a follow-up question to the previous one. Is there a set of recommended settings for certain email?
I am so glad you asked that question. Yes, sir, there are, right? Is anybody familiar with something called a security technical implementation guide in here besides Dr. Sean? I know you wanted to raise your hand, buddy. You're like, oh. Anybody heard of those before? So DISA.mil, right? IASE.disa.mil. That is the Information Assurance Security Environment, I believe is what that stands for. So the good folks at DISA have put together all these hardening guides. They're called STIGs, Security Technical Implementation Guides, and there are STIGs for email, for both the server and the client. So if you're using Outlook, it has recommendations for whatever revision of Outlook you're using. Yes, sir. And just be forewarned, they're very restrictive. If you turn all of them on, you may break some functionality, but small price to pay, right, for your security. Great question.
Would you give that website?
Yes, so it's https://iase.disa.mil. And then up at the top, you'll see a STIG tab. Click on that STIG, and that stands for Security Technical Implementation Guide, and that will show you all the various STIGs that the government has developed on your tax dollars that you have access to for free. So that not only includes email, it includes your operating system, it includes your web browsers, it includes Adobe, it includes Office, it includes Linux, AIX. Anybody know AIX in here? Right? Old stuff. Great resource, all paid for with your tax dollars. Great resource.
Thanks to the SBDC. All the consultants and SBDC is here to help you out. If you need anything, if you have questions like you've raised today, please contact them and get an appointment set up, and we'd love to help you all.